In this episode, we will look at the very first phase of building our new metal barn for our property in Northern California. This is a very exciting process for us, and it took over a year to build. We'll take you through the first stages of identifying where we decided to place the barn and what style we would like to pick for the barn. Come with us as we go through this ambitious and very exciting project. Hey everyone, I have a project that's going to take place here at the ranch, and it's going to be a long-term video. This is going to take quite a few months of videoing to get to the point of conclusion. I'm going to build a metal barn. We've needed one here for a long time. I've got a lot of equipment and such that sits outside, including our sportsmobile, sits outside with no garage. It's really not the best to always have this thing sitting out in the sun. So we need a barn here on the ranch, and what I'm looking at is back over here behind us, putting a metal building and barn. It's quite a complicated process, and I'm going through all the steps, including the permitting, the engineering, the excavation plans, the building itself, how it lays and sits on the land, soil analysis, and construction companies for putting in everything from concrete, the pad, the foundations, the footing, the building of the building. There's just so many aspects that are involved. I'll show you right now where we're planning to put it and some of the issues that we're seeing. Let's look at this. I want to get a shot of the area, so it's going to go somewhere in here. This big tree, there's a possibility, I hate to say it, but there's a possibility that beautiful tree may need to come out. Right now I'm looking, perhaps it could go right here, put it in between the tree, but I'm not sure it really balances it where it needs to go, because there'll be a lot of excavation that has to happen here. The hill goes up, and I don't want a big dirt wall on one side of the building. So the best placement is centered right in the middle, which means that tree has to come out. I'm going to do everything I can not to do that, but that's just what I have to do to be able to see if we can make this work. So I'll take you down there and we'll look at the area from ground level. And see, our cherries are in bloom. Look at these guys cranking out the blooms. Hopefully we'll get a lot of cherries. So this is the area down here. What's hard to visualize is how the barn metal building is going to look once we get it in. So I've taken some stakes and I've outlined potentially where this building can go at different sizes. I'm looking at a 40 by 60 or a 50 by 60 or a 40 by 80 or a 60 by 60. So there's lots of options. It's a fairly flat area, but up here, I don't know if you can tell, it goes uphill a little, and I would have to dig down and have a retaining wall around the backside if the building were to sit between this stake and this stake all the way back. Hopefully you can see the orange line. Another option is to place the building over on this side, which makes this tree become a problem. It's more centered, it's more flat, it's less excavation, and it really centers the building in an area that looks aesthetically pleasing. So we're just going to have to spend a little bit of time of thinking about it. The next step is I have an engineer coming out to do a layout of the area, which will be used to make an excavation plan. See, it's a beautiful tree. It's a beautiful tree. Just pains me to think that that may have to come out. So here's another angle of how it would look if the building were put in. I'm going to look at every way possible to lay this out once we get the excavation plan put in place. There's just so many variables if you're going to build a bigger building or a smaller building, and a lot of permit issues. If you have more than a 5,000 square foot roof, then you have to build a retention pond. I'm thinking that it's possible, since I have a drainage right here that crosses the driveway to here, that this swell area back here, I'm hoping could be considered a retention pond, because it's huge, and that may give me the option of going a little bit bigger on the building. All preliminary. Let's see how this develops. Should be interesting over many months. Well, here's our very first bunch of people coming to, our first engineers coming to look at the layout of the land. So you should be able to see that he is walking out to a transit, and they're starting to survey the property. This is great news. The very beginning, folks, the very beginning. Honey, let me go down and talk to him real quick. All right, another phase starting on the building operation. We have a drilling rig, and the drilling rig is there to be able to drill and look for soil samples, and the soil samples will be used to do compaction calculations. So I've got a drilling operation going on for the building pad. The idea is these guys need to come here and they take samples. They drill down into the soil. The soil samples are analyzed. There's a calculation that takes place to determine how much soil compaction is needed in order to support a pad that would have a typical amount of weight, like tractors and other vehicles on it. It's part of the permitting process, and that's going on right now. So let's go over and look at it. They dug several sample holes throughout the area where the barn would be placed, using this large drill bit to basically get the holes started. And then they used this ram that was hand operated to lift up and down the weight that drove the shaft deeper and deeper into the soil. They would drive it in until they couldn't go any further. About the deepest they could go on my property was about 18 feet deep, and the soil looks completely different from down there. The dirt inside there?
Yep, we got this over like that. We got the tube inside there.
Oh yeah. Oh wow. Some weird looking stuff, huh?
Yeah.
Nothing like on the surface.
It's almost like a little bit of volcanic rock in there.
It does, huh? Thanks for that, man.
Yep.
Soon after the soil sample was taken, it became very apparent that the view that I'd looked out from the deck of our house would forever be changed. It's a serious decision where you place a building on your property. The aesthetics of a new building are important. It completely changes the view that you will have to live with the rest of the time that you're on a property. In our next episode, we have to transplant 8 trees that are located where the building will be placed. And we bring in equipment to start the process of sculpting the landscape and compacting the soil to place the pad. Very first cuts at 6 something in the morning. Very exciting. Join us next time on Keith and We Adventures.